Welcome back to another episode of the Real G podcast. I'm your host, Gigi, and we have Dr. David Salyer here that's going to be talking a lot about his process into holistic and his transition into holistic. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce you with his bio. Dr. Salyer, sorry, I mispronounced. Dr. Salyer earned his PhD in neuroscience from Brigham Young University in 2001. He spent 3 years teaching at BYU and 1 year as a professor at Kennesaw State University outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Salyer's, I'm going to get it right. Eventually, I'm going to get it right. Research and publications focus on hormonal regulation of brain morphology, visual system development, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and electrophysiology studies of human cognition. That was a word salad to begin with. But I am amazed about how knowledgeable you are in your field. Tell us about how you started.
I finished my PhD and didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to help people in some way. And so I actually finished my PhD in experimental neuroscience and went to start a second PhD in clinical neuro, so I could help brain damaged people. Traumatic brain injury was something I thought was super cool, and if we could rehab those people and get them better, I thought that would be awesome. But a year in the clinical psychology space, I hated. And at that time, I had a friend of mine who talked to me about pharmaceuticals. And his father was a big, like, Western regional vice president for a big pharma company. And I called him up. I'd talked to him before previously, but I called him up and he told me all about what I could do with my PhD in the pharmaceutical medical device space. And so I got involved in that and spent about 10 years total in the pharmaceutical space. And then I had some life changes that came at me and gave me a look at, made me think about what does pharmaceutical and what does medicine do for us and why aren't we getting better? So my big frustration was we have all this technology and I'm promoting it and teaching doctors about it, but we're not getting any better as a whole. So that was kind of my dilemma at the time.
May I ask, what was that experience that made you transition into looking elsewhere?
You know, I got a call from my mom, but about 2 months before that, my wife's mother at the time was suffering from lupus, Lyme's disease, and rheumatoid disease because she had dozens of tick bites, and that created this onslaught, this trifecta of autoimmune inflammatory responses in her body. Her body at that point was dying. Her kidneys were shutting down, body functions were just shutting off. And then my mom calls, but that'd been going on for about 2 months, and my wife at the time, she'd found some powder and ordered it for her mother. And her mom started responding, and in fact, kidney function was improving. And I thought, that's really weird. Okay, cool. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't really care because I was in my own world in pharma. But then when my mother called and said, son, I've got bad news. I have 2 months to live.
Oh my gosh.
The doctors found a tumor the size of a grapefruit in my peritoneal, my gut cavity.
Wow.
And as she went in because she felt bloated, and they said, well, this is cancer. They drained 7 liters of my mom, of fluid out of her belly, took the cancer out, the tumor, but it was all over her organs in her gut cavity. And the cancer was called peritoneal mesothelioma. Now, we've heard of mesothelioma.
Yes.
That's from asbestos. But hers was very rare. There's only 3 cases so far in the history. This is back in 2006. And so her doctor was like, there's really nothing we can do, and sewed up my mom and said, go home and prepare your essential stuff. Talk to your family because you have maybe 2 months to live. There was no treatments that would treat mesothelioma. And so at that point, after that phone call, that's when I called. I turned around and I remember sitting at my desk in the bedroom. I had an office in my room, and I turned around and said, hey, what was that stuff you got for your mom? It's working for her. Does it do anything for cancer? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, what's it called? And who's the guy who sold it to you? And she found it online. So we got the distributor on the phone, and he hooked me up with a leading cancer expert at Sloan Kettering in New York City. And I talked to Dr. Muth at Sloan Kettering, and he said, look, it fortifies the body at the cellular level, and it allows me to treat patients and they don't get sick from my chemo I give, and they don't miss days at work, they don't lose their hair, and I've gotten much better results treating with conventional chemotherapy than I have ever before.
Wow.
And he goes, the best part is it's natural, it's from plants, it can't hurt you. So every one of his patients was getting this product before they even started chemo.
Wow.
And I said, well, my mom just started chemo. Is it too late? She only has 2 months to live. So we got some product for my mom. And instead of taking a tiny quarter teaspoon twice a day, we were giving her 16
Wow.
a day. And the long story short with her, which to me I still consider miraculous.
Right.
Because in science, I've never seen that. And in 10 years in the pharmaceutical industry, I'd never heard of anything like this. But with my mom, 3 months go by and she goes in for a checkup. And first of all, the doctor's like, hey, you're still with us, right?
Wow.
Because she was supposed to die with this untreatable, never successfully treated mesothelioma in a strange, rare place in the peritoneal cavity. And she hadn't lost any hair.
Wow.
And she's like, what are you doing? The doctor was very kind of beside himself. And she goes, well, I'm taking that powder. My son flew out here and told you all about it. I dropped off about 2 inches thick stack of literature for him to read. I'm sure he didn't look at it.
Right.
But I think it gave him something to think about once mom was still there for her 3-month checkup. 6 months go by. She finishes her whole 6 months rounds of chemo, goes back to the doctor up in Idaho where she was living at the time. And the doctor's like, what are you doing here? Like, the cancer should have killed you. The chemo should have killed you. And yet you're sitting in front of me 6 months later and you have a full head of hair.
No.
Something's going on. And they tested her blood and she came back as undetectable, cancer-free.
My gosh.
So that hit me really hard.
That must have been
Amazing.
That must have been a feeling that you probably only get once in your lifetime of shock versus bittersweet. Like, I don't even know how to describe.
Where has this been my whole life, right?
Right.
And so this is a science that really got a neuroscience guy really interested. I mean, I could not sleep, Gigi. I could not sleep for about 3 months straight and till 2 or 3 in the morning because I was at the computer all night looking at new articles, new data, new areas where this touches the body.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. I mean, it got my attention in a big way.
Wow. How did you feel at that moment? Like it was just.
I don't know if a lot of us have this experience where we feel like, okay, this is my mission.
Yes.
It was given to me.
Yes.
And I've been educated to understand it. And I need to share it with I've been talking about drugs for 6-7 years. And yet as a college professor, I didn't have this knowledge. So here I've got this amazing technology sitting in front of me. And I'm like, I've got to share it with everybody possible. And the technology was something that the term was coined by the company making the product. And so that technology is called glyconutrients. It's in the realm of glycobiology.
Can you explain to the audience what that is?
Well, glyco, of course, is short for sugar.
You're right.
And so the company termed it glyconutrient because it was a nutrient sugar. Now, these aren't sweet sugars, but what they discovered was after quite a bit of research and about 150 patents, that there are 8 essential sugars in the body that are necessary for the proper cell structure and function, for proper cellular communication, and for proper immune system response and regeneration of tissue. Now, this all began back in the mid-'80s. You've heard of aloe vera.
Yes.
Aloe vera, the cactus, my mom even knew about aloe vera. I grew up in Southern California. We had a swimming pool. So what did I get every summer? I got sunburned.
Right.
And my mom taught me, I guess I realized that mom knew something. When I got sunburned, she goes, go grab the cactus, break off a stick about that long and bring it to me. And I did. And she pulled off one of the streams and it was this gummy, gooey gunk inside. And she rubbed it all over my shoulders and my neck. And the next day, sunburn was gone. And I'm like, yeah, that stuff works. Mom does know something, you know, as a teenager, you're like, wow. So what happened was in the mid to late 80s, a biochemist by the name of Bill McAnally started to research aloe vera. He grew up in Texas and he wanted to know what his mom probably did the same thing to him. And he found that there was a sugar molecule that was the active agent in aloe vera, and that sugar is called mannose. And about 95% of what's inside that jelly, that gooey jelly
Yes, the
inside
good
the
stuff.
leaf, is a polysaccharide chains, which are multi-sugars and long, medium, and short chains. And it's 95% of it is mannose. It's a sugar molecule. It's not sweet, but it's a biological sugar that the body needs. Now, they started researching it and created a pharmaceutical company called Carrington Labs, so they could research what this amazing jelly, they named it ace mannan, what that ace mannan would do. And they started looking at autoimmune diseases, and they looked at cancer. They studied it in heart disease. They started in genetic disorders like fetal alcohol syndrome and other genetic disorders, and saw amazing things. And they couldn't put their finger on why. So as they were creating the patents, they went for a drug application, and the FDA turned them down because they had to establish a lethal dose, which was part of the drug phase 1 studies, the safety, and they couldn't kill any of their lab animals. So they didn't qualify as a drug because they weren't lethal at any dose. And so the FDA came back and said, you have to be classified as a food product, as a supplement.
Really?
Thank goodness, because it's not marketed as a drug now. We can use it and get our hands on it. Anyways, they in the early 90s, they saw a new chapter in Harper's Biochemistry. Harper's Biochem is the leading chemistry textbook that is used in all medical schools. And the new chapter is chapter 46, and it was called glycoproteins. And so as you look at that, they say, well, there's 8 essential glycoproteins in the body that are responsible for those things I mentioned: cell-cell communication, proper cell structure, function, and the ability to regenerate and talk to the immune system. Well, the leading one they saw was mannose from aloe vera. Their ace mannan, which is those long chains that they named, they discovered, that was the leading and the most prolific and most important one. Then there was 7 others, and you've heard of these. Glucose,
Right.
galactose, if you drink milk, you get galactose as a derivative. And then there's the mannose, so there's 3. And then there's fucose, which comes from brown algae, and that's prolific in the diets of Asian cultures. N-acetylglucosamine, you've heard of glucosamine for what? For joints.
Okay.
Glucosamine. This is the N-acetyl form. It's a little bit different. Then there's N-acetylneurominic acid, and there's xylose. So those are all 8 sugars that are the essential sugars for proper cell-to-cell communication, cell structure function, and then the stimulation of stem cells and regenerative processes in the body. That was the science I fell upon.
Wow. What do you think about the new treatment, CT cell treatment for autoimmune that they found might be beneficial for the cure of lupus? Sounds a little bit similar to what you just.
The technology today, and I'm not terribly informed on the CT therapy that you mentioned, but when we talk about immune therapy, what we're targeting is typically the overactive immune system in autoimmune conditions like that, and we're trying to turn off that immune system.
Right.
And we're doing that through a drug interaction that blocks an interleukin 6, interleukin 17, these ILs that are the inflammatory markers. If we can block them, we see amazing reductions and improvements, and reductions in the immune response, and therefore displayed in improvements in autoimmune conditions.
The reason I say that is because anytime you go into a holistic route, a lot of the doctors and pharmaceuticals, they don't want you to, for obvious reasons. I think it's always about their margins. I honestly think, as someone that I've told you my lupus systemic scleroderma, diagnosis a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so I was just given toxins after toxins and toxins. It was just making me sicker rather than, healthier. And so now looking back and through my journey, when I started going towards more of a holistic and diet, nutrition based medicine, I got better. So I'm curious.
Isn't it?
I'm curious. I'm fascinated about this product in aloe vera because, first of all, our ancestors knew that aloe vera was an amazing plant.
That plant has been used for centuries, and it's the most medicinally known plant in the world, and especially in Latin American culture, Mexican culture per se. They knew.
Yeah,
and they
when you
pass it down and they treat and they take care of lots of illness with it.
so much so that before you even cut it, in some traditions, you're supposed to thank it, the plant,
I could
for
see that
its medicine,
for
for
giving us
benefits.
what it provides. Yeah,
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 exactly.
that's wonderful.
So how does glyconutrients work? How does it work?
Well, that's a great question, and as long as we have 3 or 4 hours, I'll take you through the entire process.
I
But
wish
no,
we don't.
we can cut it down. I'll give you the nuts and bolts component so you get a real idea of it. As the researchers began studying this, of course, they didn't have Harper's Biochemistry's new chapter, which only came out in 1996. So they didn't really know what they had. But with the ACE mannan, they saw that there were small, medium, and long chains of this mannose
Mhm.
molecule connected together. And they're like, well, man, that's amazing. They stabilized it. They were able to dry it out, but keep it active. And they, like I mentioned earlier, they created about 150 patents
Mhm.
based on this process of stabilizing and making this jelly into a capsule type form that we can take. Um, so, and I mentioned there was 8 of them, but
Mhm.
there's only 2 that are active in our diet today. Glucose, and we eat about 5 pounds of that a year, which is
Mhm.
way too much. And then if we do drink milk, we get galactose, which is a derivative of lactose. The other 6 really aren't found much in our diet. Mannose being the most important, not very active in our diet anymore because it used to be on the husks of rice. It used to be
Mhm.
naturally found in other foods, but we strip all that, we purify it, right? And then we fortify those food products with chemical copies
Mhm.
most of the time. So we miss 6 out of the 8. That's a problem, and I think that's evident in all of like the conditions you shared for yourself,
Mhm.
the autoimmune conditions where the immune system's just not working like it's supposed to.
Mhm.
So what we need to do is put the components back in the body that the body needs to function normally, and when you put back in the body what it's been missing, it does just that.
Mhm.
Those conditions went away, or they're controlled, or they're improving because your nutritional component is stronger, it's more complete, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what the company is trying to do. How it works is these cells are, I mean, these sugars connect millions at a time
Mhm.
onto the surface of every cell in the body.
Okay.
And what they create is the actual language or alphabet of the cell. So if we have 26 letters in our alphabet, they have 8, but they connect at millions at a time to make every single receptor on the body.
Wow.
Every place where a virus, a nutrient, a bacteria, a fungus, anything that can connect and touch the cell is connecting and touching through these sugar molecules that grow like trees, millions of molecules at a time, connected to a protein, which then
Mhm.
is the door opener on the surface of the cell. So they're called glycoprotein. Well, now we know that glycoproteins are simply cells that are glycosylated or sugar coated, and that every cell, nearly every cell in the body is.
Mhm.
And your blood groups are differentiated by one sugar molecule. If you change one sugar molecule on that red blood cell, it becomes from A to B, and so it's very ubiquitous throughout the body. So we have glycoproteins or sugars connected to a protein. We also have glycolipids, sugars that are connected to
Mhm.
lipids. And on the cell surface, they stack up to create the language or every receptor. So that if I'm liver, I have the letters of my alphabet spit out and say, I'm liver. And if
Mhm.
you're liver and I'm liver, I hold on to you because we want
Oh,
to stay together.
okay. Makes sense.
But if I can't read who you are because cancer's gotten in and changed, and cancer changes the cell surface sugars, I reject you and push you away.
And that's when I go, "Oh, that makes a lot of
That's
sense."
called metastases in cancer.
Oh.
And then you, cancerous liver cell, can float around and lodge in the lungs and hide there and start taking over lung tissue. So,
Mhm.
and it's all in that chapter, in chapter 56 in Harper's Biochemistry. So it's really, really cool science how essential these 8 sugar molecules, and
Mhm.
again, the most important coming from the aloe vera plant. And just by adding that one in, the company saw amazing results. Now they
Wow.
have a component that adds all 8.
Wow.
And so we've advanced quite a bit.
I think that lately we've had so much advancement in not only just technology but in also in healthcare. we're just discovering so many things that are so good for our body, for anti-aging, for instance, cell repair, um, so many other things. Tell me about all this other technologies or advancements that are coming into the medical field that are now turning out to be more holistic than ever.
This is one that I can speak to in
Mm-hmm.
great detail. Others might take a whole nother section because we're talking about stem cells
Yes.
and exosomes and peptide treatments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of these things that really turn on a regenerative process in the body. And one of the components that these sugar forms that connect to the proteins, one of the things they do is not just talk to each other cell to cell,
Mm-hmm.
but they talk to the immune system. So the immune system can recognize who you are. If I'm cancer and you're an immune cell like a macrophage,
Mm-hmm.
and you come up and rub up against me, you need to see that I'm cancer
Yes.
so that you can kill me and get rid of me. If you don't, and if I can hide and trick and tell you that I'm somebody
Mm-hmm.
else not to bother me, which cancer does very well, then we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ingest these nutrients, it actually lights up the cancer cells. It lights up the bacteria, the viruses, so that the immune system can effectively see them and get rid of them. That's amazing technology.
It
We
is.
didn't know that till
Yeah.
recently.
Now, if I was a perfectly healthy person, what benefits would it have for me?
Keep you that way.
Keep you that way?
Because if you drink water every day,
Yeah.
you still have to drink water. If you go
Yeah.
on a hike, you're going to drink more.
Yeah.
If you're out in the desert, you run out of water, you're going to need water. Dehydration is not a disease, but water's the cure. Interestingly, the FDA, I'm getting on kind of one of my pet peeves is they said that plant materials or supplements can't be a cure. Nothing can cure a disease. But if you're without water, what makes you healthy again?
Right.
Drinking water, fluids. So
Yeah.
what you need to do is, what I suggest for everybody is to take the normal amounts because our diet doesn't have these particular nutrients in it. Remember, there's only 2 that we get on our normal basis, and the other 6 we're missing. So just by adding in the aloe vera component, amazing things happen. By adding all 8, even more. It's amazing what's happened as I've seen since 2006.
How is your mother doing now?
My mother stopped taking the supplement after she got her cancer free. And a year later, she went back in for a checkup and they found it again.
Oh, no.
And I said, Mom, you can't stop. But I couldn't talk her into it because she didn't like the taste. And she was putting it in chocolate milk, which you're not supposed to drink milk or chocolate. And
Right.
yet that was the only thing she could do it in. So I had my battles with Mom. But when they found it again, we started again. And at that point, she was too weak and throwing up and too sick to even eat.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept her for another 6 months after that.
Mm-hmm.
The success story with Mom was with 6 months of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
She lasted 2 years.
Wow.
And within that 6 months, she was designated as cancer-free. And typically, when I talk to people using this for cancer, we like to keep them on the product for at least 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
In pretty high amounts.
Yeah.
So that we make sure to knock it all the way out.
Yeah, of course.
So
That's
sad story in the end, but amazing experience throughout it.
The amazing thing is that the longevity of extension, it was amazing. You can't really,
From 2 months to 2 years. And she
can't-
only took 6 months worth of product.
you can't put a price on that.
It's
Absolutely
That's
not.
exactly right.
Yeah. And so your mission now is to get the word out.
I want to share it with whoever I can. The CEO, Sam Castor, he rode with me. And when I was working in pharmaceuticals one day, he was down in Branson, Missouri, and I was in Springfield, about an hour north, and he was doing a regional conference. So I went down and I barely learned about it. And I said, we should do this. I talked to him and he goes, I have a free day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a day off work and I took the CEO of the company with me out to doctors. And he goes, Dave, we're going to give away 5 of these canisters about this size to asthma docs. Let's go to pulmonologists, because in 1 month, if a kid takes that canister, which usually lasts about 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
so he's taken 3 times normal. My mom took 8 times normal. That he goes, I promise you, that kid's going to come back in a month and not have any symptoms of asthma at all. Because it wipes out, it corrects the immune response. Because now it can communicate correctly with the immune system and say, hey, settle down, I'm good. Don't react to that pathogen. Don't get crazy on me, right?
Right.
Don't autoimmune me.
Right.
Yeah. And so I did that with Sam Castor, and he called me back up back in April. And they said, Dr. Dave, you lectured for us. You went down to Mexico, helped open up the country. You did it in English. You did it in Spanish. We need somebody like you on our social network.
Mhm.
Can you work with our social media people? We need to get the message out.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you know what? It's perfect timing because I just left a job in pharma. And I was like, this is a great project to work on.
Yeah.
I drug my feet for about 6 months. And then working with their social media people, just started producing a couple of videos about the science. And so they're going to interview me as well. This is a great opportunity for me to get used to this setting, but to share the data and really make it kind of complete my mission
Yeah.
of sharing what this type of natural food, plant-based product can do for us.
I think the most important thing that you said is that it will keep you healthy. So you don't necessarily have to wait until you fall sick or get something. It's very important being
Yeah.
proactive.
Do you wait till you're dehydrated to start drinking water?
Right.
No. It's
Yeah.
keep yourself healthy.
Yeah.
I do it every day, and I've done it since 2006, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And every time I start to get a little bit of a sore throat, I double or triple what I take. And tomorrow morning, I'm fine.
It's part of adulting, I guess, is you have to keep yourself healthy, you have to keep yourself sane, you have to keep yourself fit, and then somehow have, an emotional relationship with everyone that's healthy as well. So the balance in life is extremely important. It's a whole task. It's part of adulting, just keeping yourself healthy and sane at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So what is the one advice that you would give someone that wants to start their journey and getting healthier again?
You know, that's a good question because when I was looking at what I could focus on, I wanted to look at and focus on something that touched everything in the body. Well, water does that pretty well. So drink good water. This touches every cell in the body. So get involved with some glyconutrients and use something that's not for one specific thing, but that's going to try to touch as much of your health and wellness as possible. That's what I would suggest. You do need to exercise. You've got to keep it moving. The body is kind of counterintuitive. The more you use it, the longer it lasts.
Yeah.
It's not like the toys or the cars or the things we buy at the store anymore.
Right.
I mean, the heart muscle, for example, the more you pump it and push it, the stronger it gets and the more efficient it is. So the body's amazing. Keep it strong, keep it healthy by moving it, putting in it what it needs to work correctly, and watch what happens. And if you are in a situation where you're under your health norm, take a little more and focus on it until you get back to that normal level, homeostasis level, and then maintain it. We need these supplements because our food just doesn't have what it used to have.
So nutrition, hydration,
And activity.
activity.
And then you mentioned something very important too. The spiritual component, the energy component.
Yes.
Surround yourself with people that bring you up. Because I've noticed in my life, there's been some really negative people, and sometimes you can't get away from them as easy as you'd like. But gosh, we're in a space where social media can make us feel like on top of the mountain, or can
It could bring us down real quick.
So get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've learned also the last couple of years, I've done a lot of meditation. And all meditation, I went to a big hypnosis conference, and meditation is like self-hypnosis. I'm telling myself, hey, I'm good enough. And if we're going to quote Saturday Night Live, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me. Stuart Small.
Yeah.
If you're old and you like SNL, Saturday Night Live, baby. But we need to hear that.
We do.
We need to hear it from ourselves.
Yes.
And I went through a period after a separation and different things with life and personal life that I didn't feel good about me. And it took some really trusted friends multiple times. And as they spoke to me and told me how they saw me, and they said, and you need to see yourself that same way.
Exactly.
And it was healing. It was amazing.
It's amazing that you have friends that are able to lift you up. I think lifting each other up is so important, which leads me to the question that I want to start asking all of my guests. What is your favorite thing about humanity?
The first thing that popped into my mind was love. But I think we miss that a lot. And not the romantic love. That's great too. But it's that brotherly, I care for you, I'm going to take care of you, I got your back.
I love that.
Love.
Yeah, I think unconditional love is the highest. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that. Wow, I'm super amazed about what you are doing for humanity. One person at a time, you're helping them to get healthier. And I think this is going to really impact a lot of people. For me, for instance, from someone that has seen the time limit, when somebody stamps your life with a time limit.
They give you a death sentence.
Yes.
That's what it was. And I'm like, no, let's fight.
Yeah.
And to see my mom respond, to see my nephew with Crohn's disease for 4 years, a 15, 16-year-old kid about 80, 90 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow. And in 5 weeks, he didn't have any symptoms.
Wow.
I'm like, that's Crohn's disease. That doesn't just go away. But if the immune system can say, hey, hold on a second, you shouldn't be doing this, slow down.
Right.
And then turn on the stem cell and the regenerative processes to rebuild tissue, 5 weeks instead of 4 years of not digesting anything.
Yeah.
And just frail. It was amazing.
Wow.
I've seen things with car accidents that I've had, and I make a paste out of it and put it on my neck, and the next day I'm not stiff, I'm flex. It's like, that's not supposed to happen. The chiropractor
I'm gonna put a bathtub and put that
and
stuff in there
soak in it.
and just soak in there.
Yeah, it's amazing what it can do, but we have to use it.
Yeah.
Gigi, if we don't do it, if we don't take it, then it can't help.
Yeah.
You got to put it in your mouth.
You got to try it. It's toxic free. It's holistic. It's natural. And what are you going to lose? You know?
I tell people that a lot. And the company actually does have a empty canister guarantee. Like, I think it's 6 months. So you take as much as you want. You buy $3,000 worth. I don't care. And in 6 months, if you're not happy, save the empty canister, send them back. We'll give you your money.
Wow.
They're that confident. And at the same time, they do a social, what's it called again? Social, where with every purchase you do, they feed a child in in an orphanage. They work in Africa and also in Mexico.
Oh, wow. That's
They work
amazing.
directly with President Fox, ex-President Fox in Mexico.
Wow.
And so they have it's called Manna Relief. And they just renamed it. Anyways, it's amazing what they have and they're doing. Putting this into a food-based product that they can hand out, and we're paying for it. We don't feel it, but they do.
Yeah.
So they eat it.
Wow, that's amazing. So, I'm really excited to hear. So what's next for you in this journey?
I just connected with a contact in Mexico who has a cellular regeneration clinic / hospital. And I connected her with a stem cell lab, a good friend of mine that I've known for about 8 years. And she's going to work with him, and we're connecting doctors to this therapy so that people can go to Mexico and do medical tourism and have a week of 5-star white glove treatment, from spa treatments and massages to essential oils to nutrition to stem cell, exosomes, peptide therapies, and other things that these doctors that are interested are coming down. My involvement will also be, the ideas are to make sure that we're collecting the data in a way that we can publish that data as a research trial, and maybe finish off a couple of phase 1, phase 2 studies for particular diseases using stem cells and exosomes. So that's kind of down that road, where this is kind of a machine gun. Well, stem cells and exosomes are like the bazookas. They're the big guns.
Sounds like a retreat I want to go to.
You'll have to go, yes. It's in the Yucatan.
Oh,
it's about an hour and a half away from Cancun, and it is a little mini paradise.
Are you going to have any of information for the audience if they want below for us?
I can definitely connect you with the where to find these products that we talked about today, and anything else we talked about. I'll make sure to get it to you so you can share that.
I'm sure we're going to have it in the description so that everyone could get a hold of these products. I'm very excited to try it. I know last time I was excited, and then just life busy.
Well, it's Christmas, right?
Christmas and everything. So I like to give everyone an update on how I'm going to try it. So I like to give everyone an update on how I feel.
Awesome. No,
so
I'd love to. Let me know. Well, I'll be with you on the journey. And then we'll get together again, and we'll talk water, and we can also talk stem cell exosomes and regenerative medicine, and the big guns of regenerative medicine.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. David Salyer. Finally got it
You got it. There you
right.
go.
Yay! Thank you so much for having us. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.